Hello and welcome. This is Luke Stokes, the Managing Director for the Foundation for Interwallet Operability, the FIO Protocol. And I'm joined today by Seth Melamed. I'm very, very excited to talk to you, the Chief Operating Officer for Liquid Global Exchange. You've just recently supported the FIO token and the FIO integration, and we're very, very excited about that. Before I get into your intro, let me give a quick intro of myself. I've been in technology since, I built my first websites in 1996, majored in computer science. I've always been excited about technology. I bought my first Bitcoin in like the very beginning of 2013. I think I spent 50 bucks. Yeah, I spent 50 bucks to waste on this fake internet money, and I got 2.5 Bitcoin. So that kind of gives you a feel for, like, it was about 20 bucks a Bitcoin at the time. And as of today, we're over 22,000, which is kind of exciting. So I've definitely been excited about the Bitcoin blockchain ecosystem for, gosh, almost 8 years now. And at the time, I was running an e-commerce company called FoxyCart, which I co-founded with a good friend of mine. And we ran that for about 10 years. And we were trying to onboard people to cryptocurrency via the shopping cart software that we were offering. We had thousands of stores. And so many of them were just like, what is this? It's too hard to use. It's too confusing. It's just causing, cart abandonment and stuff. And there's actually like a Bitcoin wiki entry for FoxyCart, because early on we were one of the few stores that was excited about onboarding people. I was blogging about it and everything, trying to get people on board. And it's just, it was really super clear to me, even way back then, how the usability of cryptocurrency is just really a problem. And that's a lot of what we're going to talk about today. Since then, I've been involved. I ended up selling my business in 2018 so I could focus full time on cryptocurrency consulting and advising. I've been involved in the Steam, now the Hive ecosystem as a block producer. I also kind of got recruited to be involved with EOS, with the EOS launch. I was working with the EOS DAC block producer, which is a DAC enabler. I'm very excited about DACs and DAOs. And I've also been, I live here in Puerto Rico, so I worked a little bit with Brock Pierce on an idea for the EOS community and EOS Foundation DAO. So a lot of interesting things in the space, but I got involved in FIO over 2 years ago now, just because I'm so passionate about mass adoption of cryptocurrency, how it's coming, and how we need to make it easier to use. So that's my brief intro, Seth. Why don't you give an intro as well? And thank you so much for your time. It's great to talk with you.
It's great to be here with you, Luke, and very excited. Like you said, we just today completed our integration of the FIO protocol, and it's really wonderful. We've already been and testing with our employees internally. I let everyone know that they're free to send me as much Bitcoin as they would like, and just send it to Seth at Liquid. In fact, anyone in the world can send me Bitcoin at Seth at Liquid. It will get to me, and I will appreciate it. So I'm the COO of Liquid Group. We're a global exchange. We really serve two different industry or markets here in Japan. We're one of the biggest spot exchanges here in Japan, and we also have our Liquid Global, where we serve a global user base out of Singapore. So I got into Bitcoin a year after you. It was in 2014. My background was much more in finance. I kind of really started working in finance when I was maybe 18, 19 years old. And in 2014, I was working in Moscow, Russia, of all places. And I was actually sort of managing the treasury and payments for a very large bank, Goldman Sachs. And what happened in early 2014, there was a, let's call it, I'll be politically correct, there was a sort of a international dispute between Ukraine and Russia, and as a result, there were sanctions placed on Russia from the West. And so, working at a multinational bank and managing treasury and payments, where there's a lot less cross-border activity, I found myself a lot of free time on my hands, and I kind of stumbled across into Satoshi Nakamoto and the Bitcoin white paper. And so pretty soon after that, I started attending conferences. And back then, just a short little story, when you went to a blockchain conference in 2014, especially if it was in the former Soviet Union, where I was attending them, the conferences usually consisted of between 15 to 20 people. And people would put their desks together and they would form a square, and then people would all sit around, and then people would come in and talk about their projects and there'd be someone who come in and present about some interesting thing they're doing with blockchain. So that's kind of how I got started. And I remember my first Bitcoin, I was buying Bitcoin around that time, 2014. And I remember thinking $250 was a lot of money for magic money that lived only in the internet.
Oh, you crazy person,
$250.
you. How could you possibly, $250 for nothing? There's just ones and
Yeah,
zeros, right?
yeah. So fast forward, I've been here at Liquid for 3 years, a little over 3 years now. And like I said, I think, what we're really, obviously what's happening right now is um, blockchain and Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is kind of emerging from, I would say, a niche type um, of an asset and a niche technology, and you're definitely seeing things going mainstream, right? When I first was talking about Bitcoin internally at GS in 2015, I think people thought I was crazy, um, and no one wanted to take my calls. I mean, a few people did; they were kind, but it was more out of sympathy than genuine interest. And now, we see institutions calling us, so it's really great to see how things have turned. And but why am I interested in FIO? I just want to talk about this for a minute. So I'm the chief operating officer at Liquid, and among the things that I deal with is, we have a pretty large client base, and unfortunately, what happens is sometimes people make mistakes when they're sending crypto. Um, they might be new to using wallets, and either they type it in manually or they make a mistake when they're copying it. And I did a little bit of research before our chat here, Luke, and I just want to share it with you. So we looked at it. So over the past 2 months, we've received, where clients actually reached out to us, at least 21 um, uh, basically complaints, or people called us up saying, hey, I sent my crypto to the wrong address, or I missed a memo tag, or I sent BCH to the BTC,
Hmm.
right? And the total value of this crypto over about almost a 2-month period was $240,000,
Wow.
right?
Wow.
So 21 cases, $240,000. Some were smaller, and we think there was probably a lot more, but they were just so small that people just kind of gave up on it, right? And if you think about that, it's just a bad user experience. And part of our mission, of course, is to grow our business, but part of our mission is to grow, the usage of blockchain. And if you have people have bad experiences, it's not a great positive for more adoption. So that's kind of the genesis where I come from, thinking about supporting our clients, thinking about the real problems that we have to deal with. And then the other issue here is that when someone sends their token, sometimes they'll send a token, an ERC20 on a smart contract that we don't even support at Liquid, and they say, hey, give me my money. And you know oftentimes, unfortunately, I end up being, I may not look like it, but I'm actually a bad guy, because people want me to retrieve their tokens. But for me to do that, we have to take off our engineering teams, and we might have to spend like a full day to do some of these recovery. But my engineering teams are working on sprints, and we have projects, and we have goals. And so to take them off of their sprints and goals to retrieve, let's call it, I don't know, $200 of someone's misplaced crypto, there's no winners in this situation, right? So this is why, when I started understanding what FIO is doing, I didn't understand all the technical parts, but I certainly understood after the first demo the problem that's being solved with FIO, and I was immediately all in on this technology.
That's awesome. I love that. I mean, to me, as a technologist, there's nothing more exciting than building technology that people actually care about. I've said this as I've led teams for my whole career. If your technology doesn't impact a human being and make their life better in some way, then what's the point, right? And
Mhm.
there's no greater testimony than a chief operating officer of a major exchange, a global exchange that says, we get it. This matters. This is important. So let me give a little bit about the kind of vision of FIO. There's probably a lot of people watching this that's like, FIO, I don't even know what that is, or FIO,
Right,
FIO, however you say it. What's the FIO protocol? And
right.
so I want to unpack a little bit. So to start, and I think you and I both agree this, we've been in the space long enough. Crypto mass adoption is inevitable. It's absolutely coming. It cannot be stopped. There's going to be billions of people that use cryptocurrency on a daily basis. I mean, I believe this strongly, and I think a lot of people in the industry do as well. I also don't think it's probably just going to be Bitcoin. I know some of the Maximalists may disagree with me on that, but I think, and it maybe not be the 5,000, 6,000, SHIT coins we have today, right? So it might be maybe 50 or so, or multiple dozens, right? There's going to be individual technologies that have different specific unique capabilities that are valuable in the blockchain cryptocurrency space, whether it's tokenized assets, whether it's supply chain management, you name it. There's going to be different tokens that serve different purposes, specifically utility tokens. And so when I think about that, I think, okay, so now we're talking, maybe 50 different user experiences as far as these big, complicated public addresses. How do I deal with this? Some of them require memos. Some don't, right? And the issue you mentioned is a really common one that I'm going to see happen more and more and more as we get more inter-blockchain communication. I take a USDT token and I have it on multiple networks. And then I deposit a BSC USDT, for example, and it's like, we don't support Binance Smart Chain, for example. These type of things come up all the time with exchanges, deposits, and withdrawals, where even the token is on a confusing network. So when we look at this, we say, okay, this is really hard to use, and it's inevitable, though. It's going to happen. How do we solve this? The usability problem is holding back this mass adoption. And so our perspective in FIO is we want this ubiquitous user experience at the wallet layer to make all crypto products easier to use. And we do that through major features like a FIO address, which is a human readable address like Luke at Stokes or Luke Stokes at Liquid, or as you mentioned, Seth at Liquid. And with that address, you can then map your other blockchain addresses. You can map if you have to have like a memo, for example, you can map that. So that's all taken care of. And you can have that all mapped. And you can also do the other two features, FIO requests, which are decentralized requests for payment that are private, secured, encrypted between the two parties, as well as FIO memo data. Like FIO data could be contextual information about a transaction. So it's not just this weird hash. It's like in your wallet decrypted for you and the other party, it says, hey, this is for lunch, and they're like, oh, I remember what that was for, and it's like, that's how the real payment industry works. I don't just have money show up in my bank and I'm like, wait, where's that from? I have no idea, right? It's always initiated with a payment request, responded to with some contextual information. So we're trying to make it be basically like Venmo for crypto, super easy, human readable names, really easy request payment response process. And that's where we're at today. We launched the mainnet in March of this year, 2020. We have over 30, I think we have 35 block producers now securing the network from 20 different countries. We have, I think, 12 or 13 integrated products now. That includes great wallets like Edge Wallet, which we're both a huge fan of, Infinito Wallet, Midas Protocol. I mean, it just goes on and on. You can check out FIO Protocol /ecosystem. It's really exciting to see that continue to grow and that ecosystem to grow. Man, I'm noticing we got some fun like green screen stuff going on here. I have the sun coming through. I'm here in the morning in Puerto Rico. But it's just, to me, it's really exciting that, less than a year in, we already have the industry, people like yourself that see what we're doing, see the feature set, understand even from like a high level governance, this isn't just some private company trying to make money. We're a Cayman nonprofit building a decentralized autonomous consortia with governance so that the token holders can actually make suggestions to the board on who should be on the board. And we have voting every 3 times a year on top of a delegated proof of stake blockchain that secures the network via the token holder. So we're building these mechanisms that can scale for the world. And at the same time, have the really important process thinking through saying, how do we build a consortia? This would be the industry leaders coming together to own this as their own thing. Another quick point is that like when the internet was around for about 10 years, there wasn't much adoption. But then the HTTP protocol comes out. When you type in a website, http:// that protocol enabled the World Wide Web and web browsers and this whole experience that we enjoy all the time today. And we feel we're in a similar place with crypto. It's too hard, too confusing, not many people using it on a global scale. And then you introduce the FIO protocol and it becomes this ubiquitous experience. It's the same experience, no matter if you're using this token, that token, you're in this wallet or that exchange, as long as they integrate the protocol at the wallet layer. You have this great experience, and that's what we're going for. And it doesn't actually need to integrate with any individual protocol. It's all done on the wallet layer. So any new crypto that comes out tomorrow will automatically be supported, and any crypto that exists today is supported. So that's kind of where FIO is at. That's the vision. And I'm just really, really excited again to chat with you, Seth, because your enthusiasm with, as you've integrated this protocol and you've worked with the team and you've experienced it has been so encouraging. It's like, Seth gets it. He really gets it. That's really fun. So I'm curious, like, and this is helpful for us even, and I'm sure other exchanges or wallets, different C-level people watching this might be like, okay, I'm interested. how did you first like come to the decision to integrate with FIO? Like what, I mean, you gave some great stories there that to me are kind of like obvious, but what was kind of, as you first heard about it, what was the thing that got you over the hump to be like, okay, I'm really going to look into this. I'm really going to decide if this is something that my users could benefit from. And then also too, like in some ways some might look at it as just a cost. It's like, well, it takes time to integrate a protocol. Why would I do that? You know, it's not guaranteed revenue. You know, how do we know how many people are using it yet today? Maybe I'll just wait, you know, for it to be more adopted. Like, what was your decision-making process to come to where you are today?
Well, that's a great question. So, you know, if I was me personally, and I think a lot of people at Liquid, if we were willing to just sit back and wait for things, we probably never would have left our previous jobs working at safer banks or whatever, and to come to work in, an innovative environment where there was nothing certain. There never is something certain. I mean, now we're seeing Bitcoin over $22,000, but that's that we didn't I didn't know that when I first got into space. And so it's the same thing with new technologies. It's kind of like Wayne Gretzky, right? You don't really look where the puck is, you're looking where it's going. And if we think about, as you touched on, for mass adoption, um, in order to get people like my mom into crypto, my dad, we're going to need something a little bit easier than a wallet address with 32 random characters and numbers, right? That's just not going to hack it. But there's another, you asked an interesting question. So obviously the first thing was when I saw the demo, and then I thought back to how I, what's going on operationally every day at Liquid. But there was another point. I think when I first started getting in touch with FIO and really understanding it, it was probably around August of this year. And we had just come off preparing for our license application in Singapore. And now in Singapore, they really put a big focus on sort of traditional ways of thinking about money transmission and value transmission. So they've taken the concept that I work with for many years in the banking world called funds travel rule, and they said, you know what, you as a what they call a virtual asset service provider, a VASP. We're no longer exchanges, apparently. We're VASPs. I'm not sure if that's a good thing. You still need to figure out how you're going to adhere to funds travel rules, right? And funds travel rules, for those who aren't familiar, it says basically, if you're a financial institution and you're transmitting value, you're obligated to understand who the remitting party is and who the final beneficiary is.
It's
And
basically the end of privacy for cryptocurrency users in many ways. You know, that's the worst case scenario of how it's being described, because it's like, for me to send money, and this actually already happens in the traditional financial system. You send
correct.
money from one bank to the other, they're also sending all of your private information, all your personal information. And this is the
Correct.
reason why this is this major surveillance state all over the the globe. These the banks and the central banks and the governments are tightly connected, because this is how they keep track of information about all their citizenry, and this is how they essentially control a lot of things. So there's a reason the travel rule is such a hot topic. So I'm really glad you're
Right.
bringing it up.
Right. And I'm not a fan of the government or private companies knowing all of the information about me or my user base. And with the FIO protocol, you're not actually exposing any data to anybody. But what you can do is start to make real forward progress to adherence to funds travel rule, even within a blockchain context. For example, um, I know FIO has already been integrated at another major exchange, and I think it's Bitmart, and I can
Bitmax, yeah,
Bitmax.
Bitmax.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Bitmax. So if one approach that I can do is, okay, well, if I'm familiar with how they perform KYC and AML, and I know that my user is sending to a Bitmax domain, then I have a certain degree from a risk profiling standpoint. I have a better idea of the risk of that transmission, because I know that the users on that domain have been already vetted, and so I can prove sort of that if I don't even if I don't have firsthand knowledge about the final beneficiary, I know that the ending institution does, and I have, in a way, adhered to funds travel rule in an elegant way where we're still preserving privacy in a non-obtrusive way. And so, for instance, what I could, again, on a risk-based approach, I could say, well, if I'm, excuse me, I do not have COVID. If I know my user is sending to a domain, a FIO domain, where I know that entity performs KYC, it allows me to say, you know what, in this case, I can send a higher threshold of value, and I'm perfectly in the good graces of regulators and funds travel rule, but I haven't impugned on users' privacy, and I'm not making them do extended due diligence and more documentation, that kind of stuff. So I
Yeah.
really think that that's another important aspect of adoption for us.
Yeah, let me unpack that a little bit in terms of how that's unique to FIO, because we have the username at domain approach. And the only real feature that you have as a domain owner in FIO is that you can set that domain to private. And what that means is no one else can register an address on that domain without having the private key. So even though a FIO address is a fully self-sovereign NFT, if you own the private key for that address that you own, when I, like, as an exchange, if I was to create, for example, like, Binance verified or something like that, and you have this domain that is private, only KYC users at that exchange would be able to get an address at that domain. So without even doing the process, it's like, we know the KYC provider in this case is that exchange. They have verified that process. They've made that public to everyone, saying this user has been KYC verified because they have this address at this domain. And that's a really interesting way that information can be available. For example, for people who like to do airdrops as well. They like to do airdrop contests, but then you have the Sybil attack issue where it's like, one person pretends to be 1,000 people, and then what's the point of this airdrop? It just got manipulated. So knowing that each individual entry is a real human being is also super valuable. And then additionally, I know there are aspects of the travel rule where the VASPs are just asked, to comply with what I consider a little bit ridiculousness, is that, like, you'd have to actually have the information, and available with your KYC provider. And so one of the things that we're also exploring is this concept of a verified FIO address, where the data could be encrypted, and essentially, instead of having all these different places where all of your data is like a honeypot, and we see these hacks happen all the time where people are stealing all this information, we could instead say, manage your private keys, which generally, do a fairly okay job. Obviously, there are hacks in centralized exchanges. That's another concern as well. But the idea being is, if you can manage the key, there's less, chance of a data breach. The key management is generally better than just normal data storage, right? As far as in the security practices of most IT organizations. And so this idea that you could encrypt your information, put it on chain, and then make it available per key pair, kind of like a FIO request, where the information is completely private using Diffie-Hellman between the two people. They have a shared key, and only those two people can read that information. So these are other ideas that we're exploring where you could extend the FIO protocol to natively actually support aspects of the travel rule for VASP. And again, I'm not necessarily a fan of these type of regulations. I'm a fan of regulations that actually work, which generally are free market regulations, where they're price discovery and voluntary interactions, and free exchange basically determine what works and what doesn't. But at the same time, I think we're in a transition period where we have to go from where we are today with where we want to be in the future, which is self-sovereign control of your value, privacy, identity, as something that is intrinsic to your own ownership of yourself, right? And so it's going to be an interesting battleground. And I think that FIO is well positioned because it's driven by, again, the industry as a consortia, that the users who care about these things, like, for example, we have a really nice process called the FIP process, the FIO improvement proposals. We're up to 20 something different proposals now that go through our steering committee, through our block producers who evaluate it, and all of that process. So we don't just go and write code and deploy it and say, hey, block producers, could you deploy this code? We make sure that it's what the industry wants. And one of our FIPs, FIP 5, is all about privacy. And it's a really exciting approach, but it's very complicated. It's a lot of work for wallets and exchanges to implement. And so we have a privacy committee that's been evaluating that for a number of months now and thinking it through. And so there are features that we have unique. We're not just wallet naming, we're a whole routing of value protocol where you could have that level of privacy, where you and I could have an interaction, for example. And if we implemented FIP 5, there wouldn't even be on-chain data to know that your account and my account had an interaction. It would be one-sided, where I would put an encrypted piece of information out on the chain, and you'd be able to retrieve that as being yours. And so there's like some really exciting future features of FIO in terms of multi-sig routing, because multi-sig is really difficult on most chains. We could do that very easily in a FIO request type way. You could also do key recovery, where you could take your seed phrase, split it up into individual words, and actually, send it out to different people that you trust, little pieces of it. And then you could later, if you lose all your private keys and your seed phrase, you could ask them, hey, remember that message I sent you 2 months ago? Can you go in your wallet and decrypt it for me? Send it back to me what those words are, let me know over the phone. And so we have some really interesting ideas. We've got, a lot of other ideas as far as how to help the individual users of the FIO token understand the value of the network, be able to share in some of those fees in the future. We've got a co-op model we've been designing. We've got a staking model we're designing. A lot of really cool things coming. But ultimately, it's about our main goal. We're here to make crypto products easier so everyone can use them. And again, I love that you guys have caught that vision, and you're right there in the trenches dealing with the high level regulation issues that come up with this.
So, Luke, I think it's really important to take one step back and kind of explain to people because we don't have an online video, but when I say what caught my eye was, so most wallet addresses, the public key is, I believe it's 32 characters, right? Is that right?
It varies, actually. There are some
vary.
blockchains have really long ones, and then some have long ones plus a memo or additional third level.
Okay, right. In addition to the address, right? But in any case, it's a very long string, and there's nothing to indicate the time it was issued or anything that gives you any indicator. It's just a random string of numbers and characters. And so what the power of FIO really is from an end user perspective is the ability to use a plain name, right? So for instance, I'm Seth Liquid. So as we've integrated FIO, what we can do is if I know someone has registered their name in a FIO domain, I can just type in that name and we do the resolution of that name and the actual address. So essentially it's abstracting away a lot of the complications of sending and receiving, right? In a very, very elegant manner. When we've done our internal testing, I'm sure it's in other places as well, but you type in that name, you don't have to wait a long time. It immediately comes up. You start typing in the actual wallet address, the public key address shows up instantly, and boom, I can just say I'm sending some Ethereum, some Bitcoin, what have you. And this is really, in my view, moving things really forward in the industry by completely abstracting away the complications and reducing chances of errors and the bad UX like we talked about earlier. So just so people who are not technical and don't understand everything you explained, I just want to understand exactly what FIO is doing for us, and I think many others in the near future.
So that experience is, so I come as a user and I'm like, all right, I want to use the Liquid Exchange. They've got this VIP experience for a FIO user. You guys have talked about some really interesting, we won't get in all the details on the video here, but definitely follow you guys, follow Liquid Global on Twitter, follow us on FIO, because we'll be announcing these marketing ideas we have. They're really exciting. Yeah. We're essentially creating this VIP experience for those who have a FIO address in both the deposit and withdraw, and even potentially some benefits when you're trading as well. And so instead of having to go and figure out this craziness of, okay, like what's my deposit address, and am I sending, as we talked about, the wrong token from the wrong network, oh no, I sent it to the wrong address. Instead, you can actually either send right to, let's say I was Luke Stokes, or in your case, Seth at Liquid. I can either send any token right to Seth at Liquid. And if Liquid doesn't support that token, let's say it's some, random ERC20, right? That mapping may not be there. And then it'll just say, nope, there's no address. You can't send that token to
and it never gets sent.
They don't support that. You didn't map that address. And in addition, you can do a FIO request initiated from the exchange itself and say, I would like to deposit a Bitcoin, but I really want to make sure that I'm sending it to the right place. So I can, as a user on the exchange, I can initiate a FIO request, which is a decentralized payment request. And then I get my wallet and it's like, all right, and I believe it's deposits at Liquid, or there's like an address that comes in and it'll show me like, okay, in the memo, you're about to do a deposit to your account, and here's the exact token and the exact amount. And if it's there in your wallet, you could say, yep, and you just swipe your finger and you're done. And that
Right.
experience is just so much better. And the same thing with withdrawals. When I want to withdraw, I know that I can send it. In my case, I could be Luke at Stokes. And I know that if I send it, it's going to come to me. And I don't have to worry
Right.
about, oh no, did I copy the wrong address? Was that actually, because for anyone who's using crypto on a regular basis, you're constantly copying and pasting addresses around, dealing with QR codes that
Right.
are unencrypted. And there's this thing called the man in the middle attack. Meaning if you're trying to get an address from someone, or you're trying to get your address to someone else, that's generally an unencrypted process. Meaning
Right.
someone could inject in the middle and get my message, capture it, put their address in there instead, and then send the message along. So I'm like, hey, I sent you that Bitcoin. Did you get it? And it's like, dude, I'm still waiting. Where's the Bitcoin? I'm like, I sent it. Here's the link on the Block Explorer. And they're like, that's not even my address. What the heck? And we
Right.
did this, FIO did this usability study of the blockchain space a while back. And it was amazing. Over 50% of the people just don't feel comfortable and have had issues. And some of them, I forget exact number, but it was less than 10%, but it was more, it was about, I think 7 or 8% literally were victims of man in the middle attack. And it was just
Yeah.
appalling how often this kind of
Well,
stuff happens.
it's, it's very timely. So 3 days ago, one of the most promising projects in the space, the CEO, founder, a very bright guy, was using MetaMask, and it was a man in the middle attack, and his wallet got completely drained. And
I heard that he installed, a hacked version, even though he had his hardware device. It was showing him information in the hacked, wallet, and then it was information that was difficult to verify on the hardware device, from what I heard. And those type of examples are just like the reason why we want to integrate all the way. I mean,
right.
how great would it be to have your ledger or your Trezor show Luke at Stokes, and then here's the
Right.
address, and you could know that's cryptographically secured, meaning you have to have the private key to be able to set up that mapping. And
Yeah.
that's the feature we're looking for, is more confidence, more security, more ease of use. And it's
Right.
it's an exciting feature. I really love that you guys kind of like you got it right.
So
I
let
feel
me,
like sometimes
yeah.
people that have been in the industry longer, they seem to get it faster because they've been
Right.
dealing with these pain points for years and years.
Exactly.
And you and my, we've been in this space for 7 and 8 years. It's like we've had to deal with this. I'm a technologist and I still get sweaty hands when I'm like dealing with these things. It's stressful.
True.
It's not an
True.
enjoyable process.
True.
And so it's been neat to kind of, people call us the OGs, right? Because we've been through a couple bear markets and a couple bull markets, and we're still here. And
Yeah.
I think my hope is that more stories like this will get out,
Right.
for other C-level people to recognize the importance of what we're doing.
So I want to share with our audience here a little bit what we're doing at Liquid to show our commitment to the development of FIO, and in a sense, our commitment to the development of blockchain and adoption of blockchain, because I think they're really connected concepts. So what we're going to be doing is offering a free registration of your domain at Liquid for all Liquid users. You'll be able to get your own name, and you'll be able to have your, send any crypto of any of the currencies we support to Liquid just by sending it to your name at Liquid. We're going to offer that free for, I think we're going to do it for the next at least 3 months, right? So we really want people to try it. It's not going to cost them anything to get registered, and they're going to have a really powerful tool. And if they're using some of those wallets, it's going to be very easy for them to send it to Liquid, and it's going to be stress-free, no cold sweats. It's going to be, that's really what we want. And the other thing that we're going to be offering for people is the people that process withdrawals out of Liquid, where they're sending it to a FIO domain. We're going to offer the first 10 withdrawals that they do, where they're sending it to a FIO address, any domain. It could be like the Infido wallet, or they can send it to the Edge wallet. Our friends Paul Pui in California, or any other parts of the ecosystem. I think you mentioned the website page with all the different partners. So if people want to send from Liquid to any of those partners using the FIO domain, we're going to waive the withdrawal fees.
That's amazing. That's super exciting.
So yeah, we hope, I'm hoping that this is really something that can take hold. It's definitely a network effect thing. And Liquid is proud to be part of the this growing ecosystem.
That's really exciting, Seth. And you mentioned earlier, I think you said you had an email from a customer or something, like an experience that happened recently. And I was like,
Yeah.
wait, no, don't read it to me. I want to hear it during the show. So if you wouldn't mind sharing that, I'd love to hear, because again, this is so encouraging for us, because we're always trying to be like, how do people learn about FIO? What gets them interested in it? And then what's their experience and why it's important?
Yeah, so this is 100% real. I will redact some of the people's names for privacy purposes, but this is a true story. This happened a week ago, 10 days ago. Dear Seth, thank you for reaching out to help me on this matter. You have no idea what this means to me and my family. Well, I guess she's not telling the background. Let me tell the background, and then I'll read the letter. I jumped ahead. So this person, they had sent some tokens to Liquid in the hopes of selling them. And they were using our friend MetaMask. And for some reason, and I'm not really sure why, they had ended up sending it to an address that was exactly the same as their wallet address at Liquid, except for 1-digit difference. And that
Wow.
1 digit makes all the difference.
Wow.
And so what happened was, this is very early, and this has happened, I think they were someplace in Europe. And I woke up, early in the morning, and the first thing I see in my Slack message is someone from our support team overnight messaged me saying, "Hey, can we retrieve this deposit?" And they said it's a lot of money. It's $40,000. And I said, "Oh, wow." So I looked into the details, and I got the wallet address, and I looked it up on Etherscan. It was in ERC20. This isn't our wallet address. I don't have the private key. I can't, even if I were willing to take off one of my engineers and spend a day on trying to retrieve it, it's not mine to retrieve. I can't help you. So I thought there might be other ways to maybe help this person out. And I connected with them on Telegram. I tried to explain to them, listen, we're not stealing your crypto from you. You've just sent it to the wrong address. But maybe there's another way we can somehow lower the pain of this issue. So I said, please write me a letter describing what happened. And Luke, this happened, like I said, 10 days ago, before we even agreed to do this fireside chat. So this is raw. Let's put it that way. So also now with the background, I'll read the letter. So Seth, thank you for reaching out to me, reaching out to help me on this matter. You have no idea what this means to me and my family. I have a very close family, and we all work together to do the best we can for each other. By the way, my English is very limited, so my sister is translating for me. My crypto experience is very limited. It started with my brother-in-law telling me how crypto would change the world for the better, and that the average people all over the world would prosper because of these changes. He also said that it could be risky, but that was my best investment opportunity available at this time. I watched my sister and brother-in-law's family doing well by investing in crypto, and my sister especially likes. Can I name the token?
Sure. Yeah.
It's Celsius.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
my sister especially likes Celsius. Great project, by the way. Alex, Leah, Wasim, fantastic project. We'll talk about them later. I finally decided to invest, but first I had to sell the farm, literally, to raise the money to invest. I sold my portion of the farm in the Dominican Republic, the only valuable thing I own. The farm is a chocolate tree farm and has been in my family's name for over 100 years. We are not rich. Farming has been difficult in the last several years. My goal was to invest in crypto and eventually be able to help my father and the rest of the family by putting the needed funds back into the farm to turn things around and bring more financial security for my family's future. I sold my portion of the farm to my brother-in-law, and I was to receive the funds and sell, and he got my portion of the farm. So while I was visiting them, my sister helped me set up my Liquid account, and we attempted to move the sell to my new account that I had just set up with Liquid from my brother-in-law's MetaMask account. We sent the first 100 cell and it was successful. I remember copying the address and pasting it in, like my sister showed me. The two following transactions for, I'm not going to say the number, but a very large number of Celsius, and one more for an even larger number of Celsius that I did, both never arrived. Those were my first two transactions in crypto. After we realized the funds did not arrive, we contacted your company and learned that somewhere along the way, a couple of letters were different and that the funds that had been sent to another account, not my account. I still don't know how it happened, but it did. We think it's a glitch, but however it happened, it doesn't change the fact that Cell is now gone. My hope was that this wrong account number was controlled by Liquid, and maybe the transaction and funds could be retrieved, but now I know it's not. I am completely devastated. I still can't believe the funds are gone. I can't stop thinking about it. All my hope is that just maybe you could help me find the owner of that account the funds were sent to, and I could somehow recover my large number of Cell. I'm not sure what you can do, but please help me if you can. I would be indebted to you forever. I appreciate everything you can do. Hope is all that I have left.
I mean, just to unpack that even more, it's like this is someone's first experience with crypto, and they're used to a world where you can do, different. You can take a ACH transaction and reverse it, or you could do, a credit card transaction and reverse it. And in crypto, when you own your own store of value, you own your own money, you are your own bank. These things don't exist, and what a devastating story. Oh my gosh.
And this was 10 days ago. So, the problems are real, but there's solutions, there's innovative technologists like yourself, and I'd like to think open-minded people like myself that are trying to bring these solutions to people, and so that there's not another case like this where people are losing a substantial amount of their life's work to a fat finger mistake, or in the case of the founder 3 days ago, his startup that he brought up from nothing. So these are the kinds of things that inspire me. I think inspire you as well, and I'm really hoping that we can make a difference here and make it a better space.
Seth, I so appreciate that. I mean, what a devastating story, but it really highlights, and I think it's important that when we're trying to bring about these innovations, and I love how you kind of simplify. Sometimes I get off on the tech, I get a little too much in the details, but you simplify it to make it real. This is the basic experience you're going to have, and this is how it's going to feel. And it's like having a story like that, and that will probably be something that we repeat often. It's a terrible story that doesn't need to happen anymore, because FIO exists. And all that it takes is for visionaries like yourself to be able to be the internal champion in their company to say, hey guys, I know we want to make money. I know we're running a business, and we can get into, I want to get into a little bit the tokenomics of FIO there are reasons why, businesses can actually make money, make revenue, wallets and exchanges through FIO protocol. But it's beyond that. It's saying we have to do this for our industry. As we do this, to make our industry better, we're actually improving and potentially increasing the value of every other thing in the space. All of these different protocols, if they support, wallets and exchanges that have FIO enabled, and if they promote that and they do like giveaways, for example, of FIO addresses on their protocol domain, as they start getting involved, they can say, hey, here's a whole usability problem that we don't have to solve anymore. A lot of protocols are kind of working on internal naming solutions and things like that, but it's all walled garden. It's all like a silo. It's all just, how can I make my little community easier and better? And what I'm believing in is this growth, this industry growing up a little bit, becoming adults. We're just a little 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 12-year-old coming to be an adult to say, hey, we can make the whole industry better, not just for my little silo, but for all of us. Because again, it's inevitable, this mass adoption, the billions of people coming to crypto. And so this idea that, like, yes, it's some work to integrate the FIO protocol. And maybe we could talk a little bit about that, what your guys' experience has been integrating the protocol, but also there are some tokenomic benefits to those who integrate. We have this idea where, a large portion of the fees go to the block producers. They're securing the network. It's really important that they get paid. There's no inflation in the FIO token economic model. There's only ever going to be 1 billion tokens, and actually less than that. 38 million tokens are locked forever, will never be transferred. So it's less than 1 billion tokens total. And there are other tokens that are locked up that will be released over time. But the economic model says we're going to reward the block producers. 85% goes to them today. We may change this in the future with the support of the community, but today that they get well rewarded. And even then, there's kind of like in a game theory model, there's this economic sink, meaning their pay doesn't just go to them right away. It's actually split up into 365 buckets over the year, so that basically they're incentivized to continue providing great service to the network. Then 5% goes to the foundation to continue supporting all the great developers. We have about a dozen people on team now, actually more than that now, with biz dev and marketing and sales, and then an amazing technology team that actually built the protocol. They're working directly for the foundation now, and they're doing really great work. All of this is available on our Confluence and Atlassian and Jira pages. You can look at everything going on in the roadmap and everything. And then, so there's that percentage. And then there's an additional 10% that goes to the actual technology provider. And that would be the wallet or exchange that initiates the FIO interaction where the fees are collected. The on-chain fees to register an address or even register a custom domain. And in addition to that, the protocol is designed so it mints additional tokens. So instead of just that 10%, there's an additional 40%. So what's about a $2 address, which you guys mentioned you're going to be able to, in partnership with the foundation, provide for free for the users, normally would be about $2. Like on chain, that $2 fee in FIO tokens still has to happen. And in addition to that, you get this $1 bonus. So basically the technology provider has this economic incentive to participate in a decentralized business model that rewards each and every participant, because every single wallet, every single exchange that integrates the protocol makes the whole network more valuable. So there's some really cool, exciting reasons why people like yourself would say, okay, not only am I making the industry better, but I'm also creating revenue potentially, like for a wallet, as I onboard my community to this protocol. So I'm very excited about that. Very excited about, again, about your vision and the understanding for this. Any other additional things along those lines you want to share as far as like, oh yeah, that was what I was going to ask about the actual experience. It is a good amount of technical lift to support the FIO requests and all that. What was your experience with that? I mean, that's something that we want to refine a little bit to know, how much effort does it take? How do we make it easier? All that process.
So I am very blessed to be working with an outstanding group of technologists at Liquid, and I really would need to defer to them. But here's what I will say. I saw a real energy at Liquid amongst our teams. One thing about this implementing the protocol is it really impacted our exchange from top to bottom, from the front end, where there's a UX for people to enter in the name, and then the back end resolving it with our blockchain team to be able to interface with the FIO network and to help to do the resolution, and and then integrating our entire withdrawal process to accommodate the FIO domains. And so we had a lot of different teams, and what really struck me was how quickly the teams worked together and how like people were motivated to like really get this thing done. I would see people working on Slack at all times of night. Like just a great sense of collaboration. I really think the reason for that is this was something a little bit special. I think that the problem that I iterated and the letter that I read, like everyone knows about these things, some more than others, but we're all kind of familiar with these problems. And so what I saw was a real energy where it was kind of even just beyond like, okay, I need to do this particular sprint. It was more like it became a little bit of a passion project for a lot of the people at the team. And I think it's because people, we had that understanding that this is really solving an interesting problem. This is going to improve the user experience. And people were just kind of motivated to, on its own merits to work on this project. So it wasn't simple though. I mean, it did require, like I said, it required different parts of our stack to work together. But I think we're really pleased with the results, and we'll be happy to share some of our learnings with your team, so the next integration could be done even faster. We would love to help in that respect.
Excellent. That's exactly that use, that actual experience in a real world environment, all the different security. I mean, I know our team was available to help, as questions came up and stuff. And so I know, the different security ideas of how to segregate the security of, cold wallet storage, and how the private keys for that are going to always be separate from kind of the FIO interactions of mappings and things. And just, it was really great to see your team kind of step up and make this happen as quickly as they did. And yeah, we're really excited, not only about that, but as you've shared with me, your relationships to what would be considered by some competitors in the industry, your relationships to other exchanges. And you've already started to make introductions to say, this is bigger than just one little exchange or one little token project. This is the whole industry becoming better. And so I so appreciate that you see the larger vision of the network effect, saying the more we implement this across the board for the ecosystem, And again, the more we ourselves are involved, we have 3 times a year, we have elections for members of the board on the FIO, Cayman entity, along with the actual ability to be a block producer. We would love for the, those who validate the network to be some of the industry leaders in the network. And in addition, the block producers we have today that I brought in from my experience with Steam and Hive and also with EOS, these are some of the most technically excellent block producers in the space. And we're talking through the idea of having industry leaders come in who maybe don't know DPoS as well, but would want to play a larger role in the ecosystem and have participation in governance. These block producers are available where they can basically say, hey, I can help run your node, and you get to be in that governance role. I get to be in the technically excellent role, and I get that guaranteed income as a service provider. So we have some really interesting models to make the network really secure and give everyone who's really positioned in the space to, that will benefit, because now FIO protocol becomes a direct part of your actual main business model, right? With the withdrawals and the deposits. So it's really important the network is high performant and done really well. So you guys are going to be really well motivated if you were to, to participate in governance and things of that nature, which I think is also unique a little bit among the delegated proof of stake tokens and chains out there. So it's a really cool thing to connect with you. I'm really looking forward to, we have a lot of upcoming marketing activities we're going to be doing. AMAs, Ask Me Anythings on both the Liquid Global and also FIO Telegrams. We're going to be doing contests on the exchange. Lots of cool stuff coming. And so please definitely follow, and we'll include links in the description of the video. Follow Liquid Global on Twitter, join their Telegrams, same with us, FIO Protocol, join FIO on Twitter. And I'm really looking forward to the ongoing conversation. Any other closing thoughts you want to add before we talk about we have this idea for those who watch this video, a little benefit for them?
Yeah, that's right. So for those who watched the end of this video, first of all, thank you. Secondly, if you do and you're new to signing up to Liquid, if you use a referral code, which I think will be in the comment section, you'll be eligible for a bonus of $50 in FIO tokens. So there you have it.
Fantastic. Yeah, and we've got ideas as well where you could leave your Liquid address, and we have a contest that we can do on the protocol side to say, oh, look, here's a user, they've got a FIO address now at Liquid, and we can verify those addresses. So we're going to have some interesting contests. If you do that within the next 3 days of this video being launched, if you're watching this video afterwards, sorry you missed out. You got to follow the
3
socials.
days. That's right. 3 days.
And that way, those who are following our shared communities will be able to kind of be the first to know about these type of contests and the cool things we're doing. So again, Seth, thank you so much for your passion, your vision, and thank the team as well at Liquid. Really, really appreciate the effort you guys have put into integrating this and just your passion. I mean, those stories are why we're doing what we're doing. This is why this team has worked so hard for a number of years to launch the FIO protocol and get it out to the community to be able to use. So I super appreciate you and the time today. And I look forward to, this is just the beginning, right? We're now in this together to get this protocol integrated, because we can eliminate those type of stories. We're not going to have those stories in the future. We make crypto easier to use, more secure, and just a joyful experience. So thank you again, Seth. I really appreciate it. I look forward to future conversations.
Thank you, Luke. It was a pleasure.